Hi everyone, welcome to Tiny Desk Knitting. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about what I'm wearing today, which is a Fair Isle cowl and a cap. And they don't match exactly, but they do go together. So I'm going to show you the hat first. You'll notice I have some new decorations. The kids made a poster of the body systems the other day, so that's really exciting. Now I know where my stomach is at all times. Okay, so the hat. I actually showed this in my very first introductory video, which I actually only recorded a few weeks ago. But I didn't talk very much about it, so I'm going to do that now. Okay, so I used the Katie's Kep pattern by Wilma Malcolmson, which was the official Shetland Wool Week hat pattern for 2020. I'm gonna move this. That's better. That's a good light. And that was free on Ravelry, still is free on Ravelry. It's linked in the show notes. So I made a couple of her hats. I made the Katie's Kep, and then I made her Nighthawk skull cap, which you can see in episode 3 if you're interested. And I really liked her patterns, and I noticed that she is, she's gifted at designing the star crowns, which are really gorgeous. And she also does something really useful, which is that most of her hats have the same number of stitches around, and they have like 24 stitch repeats or 16 stitch repeats or something that fits into a larger number. In this case, it's 168 stitches around, which is divisible by 24. So you can use any 24 stitch repeats to make this hat, which is what I did. So I looked at the pattern and I saw that there were a certain number of rows in the first chart, so the chart before the decreases, this part, the body, and I just made my own. So I made my own chart that has 24 stitch repeats or repeats that go into 24 stitches. Like this one here is only 8 stitches, but obviously 24 is divisible by 8, so that worked too. And then these, the big ones here are both 24 stitches around. So this wasn't too hard. I have reference books, which I've shown you before, but I will show you this one again. This is my favorite one. The Complete Book of Traditional Fair Isle Knitting by Sheila McGregor, first published in 1981. She's got like pages and pages and pages and pages and pages of graphs. And there you can see some of the larger OXO patterns. You can see she tells you the height. I've shown this maybe before. She tells you the height of each pattern here. These ones are all 15 stitches wide or tall, and I often write the width in. Like 30, 28, because you can easily just make it 28 by making the stars and the like the X's and O's closer together. She's got tons. She's got all these great pages of charts. So I just found some charts that were, I think they were 15 stitches high. Yeah, they're 15 stitches high, and that were 24 stitches around, 15 stitches tall, 24 stitches in a repeat. And the stars or the X's you'll see are the same. So there's one X and there's the other X. They're the same. And then the lozenges are different. So that one's got sort of more open, and this one has more little things inside, and that one just has 4 and then 1 in the middle. So one of the things that she does here is that she has lozenges like all on one page. She'll be like, here's the same outline, and here's a bunch of different ways you can fill it in. So that's one way to do it. It's very useful. And then I used the little snowflake pattern in the middle, which, oops, that's the end. So the jogs there. Okay, so there's the middle. And then there's 8 rounds of corrugated rib, which seems regular for hats like this. Okay, so that's how I designed it. And my charts are linked, not linked. I just put the chart in the show notes, so you can just download it if you want it, screenshot, download, whatever you want. I've also linked to my Ravelry page, and the chart's also added as like a photo on Ravelry. So again, you can screenshot that. Okay, so now I want to talk about colors. All right, so I knew that I wanted a white background, which, I mean, having one background color for Fair Isle just makes things easy. It means you don't have to think too much. You just have to make sure that all your contrasting colors contrast well enough with your background, like you can see them, which you can obviously see here. These are all contrasting enough. And then you just have to decide if they go together. So I wanted to use all blues, and I decided to do 2 like grayer blues and then 1 brighter blue. And I used, let's see. So here are my blues. The 2 grayer blues are both Jamieson's of Shetland Spindrift. This one is, there we go. You can see this one's Highland Mist. So this is the lighter one. And this one is Lomond, which is slightly darker. They're both grayish. I hope you can see that well enough. And then the brighter blue is, this one's a full skein, but I wanted you to be able to see the whole thing. BC Garn, Bio Shetland. This yarn, I got it a couple of months ago just to see if it would go well with like the Wool Brokers, Jamieson and Smith, and Jamieson's of Shetland yarn, because I thought that'd be great. There's another company that I can get yarn from. So obviously it's Shetland wool. It's 100% pure organic wool, but it's lighter weight. It's 280 meters rather than in 50 grams rather than like 115 meters and 25 grams. So it's, if you've ever used Biche Bouche Le Petit lamb's wool or Le Petit cashmere lamb's wool, it's more like that. It's a little bit thinner. So if you are accustomed to knitting color work with slightly different gauge yarns, should be no problem. It's a little bit annoying, but like you can do it. It's not really an issue once you block it. But if you're not used to that, I would recommend checking all of your yarns before you start using them to make sure that they all have the same thickness. But so you can see them together, the lighter and darker of the gray, and then this one's brighter. So there might be a little bit of gray in this, but not much. I got this at the Wool Barn, no, not the Wool Barn, the Wool and Company in Illinois. It's in St. Charles, Illinois. They ship everywhere, at least in the US, probably ship everywhere. And this is called, I mean, the color name is just like a bunch of numbers, but if you get it from them, the color name is Sapphire. And I like it. It's a really nice color. And then the white is just Jamieson and Smith, the Wool Brokers 2-ply jumper weight in color 1A, which is kind of a creamy white. Excuse me. Okay, so yeah, charts are in the show notes. So I'll talk about the cowl next. I wanted the cowl to have a wider range of colors and backgrounds. Like I wanted to change the background color. I didn't want it to be all the same. The main reason for that is because I didn't have that many light colors of yarn at the time. I've subsequently had more cones come in, but I didn't have enough light colors to make the background all one color. So I was like, okay, I'll switch it up. Then I'll only need like 1 to 2 balls of each background color. So I used a couple of the same colors as the cap, so that they would complement each other. Like they'll go well if I would, decide to wear them together. But I didn't want them to match because I also wanted to show what you can do with the same basic palette. So the basic palette is like white and blue, and the blues are all grayish anyway. So going into gray is sort of natural. And the cowl I also did to illustrate color blending. So I actually, before I sewed this, I like showed it flat. So right after this section, there's going to be another section of the video where you can see it, like up closer, like with a different point of view. So it's pointing down with really good light. That's why I have the lamp here. But here you can kind of see. So there's dark gray, light blue, white, as the backgrounds. And then there's dark blue, slightly lighter blue, slightly lighter blue, slightly lighter blue. They're all kind of dark blue, but the point is that they're all supposed to blend. And let's see. So the background colors are sort of, I tried to do as seamlessly as possible, which worked pretty well. It looks like they kind of blend right into each other. The white is a little obvious, but otherwise not bad. And then the foreground colors are also intended to blend seamlessly, although this darker blue is offset from these three by a couple of plain bands of the grays, so that didn't matter as much, but these three are all, I mean, from this far away, you probably can't even tell that this is three different colors, which is what I intended. That's good. So the navy, the darkest navy, this is also BioGarn Shetland in the navy. It comes in 50-gram balls, so you don't need as many. And then the other three blues, so I took Lomond, which was the darkest color in the hat, the darkest blue in the hat, and that's my lightest color in the cowl. So you can see I've got a small ball left. So I used Lomond, and then that's Pacific. So you can kind of see that. I hope it focuses. Can you focus? There we go, sort of. You can see there's red and green heathered in there with the blue and the gray. This one's really just blue and gray. And then Atlantic, which is slightly darker than Pacific, and there's no like red or green heather, it's just, again, blue and gray. These are all Jamieson's of Shetland Spindrift. And then the navy is BioGarn Shetland. Although I'm sure you could find a great navy in Jamieson's of Shetland. They have 225 colors, so you could probably find whatever you want. Like if I were gonna design this or like publish this pattern, I would make my sample all of the same yarns so that it would be easier. But if I'm gonna publish this design, it needs to be edited a little bit because it's not perfect. That's okay. That's why we, I don't know what I'm even saying. That's fine. We just knit another one and then we have lots of gifts or lots of cowls. Okay, the background colors. So I did use the white in the middle here. There's the white 1A. And then the next lightest is Eggshell from Shetland Spindrift, which is a very light blue. The next lightest is Jamieson and Smith. I think it's 203. It's in the show notes. And then the darkest gray is Shayla from Shetland Spindrift also. So yeah, you can see I used a mix. I used 2 Jamieson and Smith, 2-ply jumper weight. I used 5 Shetland Spindrift, and I used 1 BC BioGarn Shetland. That's fine. Everything was under 25 grams except the light gray because there's an extra row in each, or extra 2 rounds of plain light gray in each of these larger bands. So more got used. That's normal. Okay, so about the design, again, I recorded another video where you can see it all flat and I talked about the design there. So I'm gonna stop the video here and then just insert that one so you can see it. And then I'm gonna come back and talk a little bit more about construction. Here is this cowl. I'm showing it to you here before I join it so that you can see the details of the pattern. So I designed this pattern myself, loosely based on the Cowl Cowl by MJ Mucklestone. But when I say loosely based on, I mean the shape is based on the Cowl Cowl and the idea of Fair Isle bands, specifically larger Fair Isle bands. These are much larger than they are in the Cowl Cowl with a piri in between. So these bands are 15 stitches of color work and then 1 extra round here on either side of a solid color. So you can see that I've used 4 pairings of colors. I don't know if you can see it actually. It's a little bit hard to see, and that's the whole point. I tried to do the fade so that you couldn't tell. So I've got my darkest color with my darkest color here, my darkest background color, which is the darkest gray, Jamieson and Smith Shayla, with my darkest blue, which is BC Biogarn Shetland in the navy color. And then I have, in the bands, I've got the light gray for these 3 on the bottom and 3 on the top of the band. So that's a light gray Jameson and Smith with Jamesons of Shetland Atlantic. Then the second one you can see in the middle here, right above the white, very middle stripe. I have the background color is Jamesons of Shetland Spindrift in Eggshell, which is the background color. It's a light blue. And Pacific, also Spindrift, Shetland Spindrift, which is slightly lighter than Atlantic, and it has a green and red heathered mixed in. And then the middle is Lomond. That's the what do you call it? The like the main the blue, excuse me. The contrasting color, the pattern color is Lomond, and then the background color is just Jameson and Smith 1A, which is white. So I think I did a pretty good job with the fade here, and you can see the colors all lined up, obviously, if you keep watching this video, but that's what it looks like. So I've got, the way that I did it is that I started with, this is the start. So I started here. There's 4 different large bands. There's the stars. Here's another better shot of the stars, because this one's all bunched up because the stitches are live. So I've got stars, and then I have a Fair Isle OXO band with the X here, and then the lozenge here, the O. Then I have, this is also, I mean, there's a stylized OXO. So is this. This is, you can see the X, and then there's the O. X, O. So it's in there. It's just stylized. And same here, X and O. So these are diamonds. And then I've got another lozenge with a different X here. So all of these are either 28 or 14 stitch pattern repeats. So I messed up here. Couldn't tell. Oops. I always think mistakes, like small mistakes like that, you gotta have one. It's lucky. What was I saying? Right. Okay. So these large OXO patterns here and here, those are all 28 stitches across. And then they're like kind of like Selbu stars. They're 8-pointed stars. And then the diamonds are all 14 stitches across. So the total number of stitches in the cowl is 140, which means that all of them fit together. I mean, 28 is twice 14. So there's 2 of these for every 1 of these. So that's easy. And then the Peary is 5 stitches wide, which goes into 140, although it doesn't go into 14, so, or 28. So these are not necessarily symmetrical with the larger bands, but they do all fit in the grand scheme of things, which works out. So that's a quick and easy way to do some cowl design if you are interested. It's not too hard. You just have to find a number sort of between, I mean, for a wide cowl like this, you could do between 120 and 140. 140 is a little wider. Mary Jane Mucklestone's Cowl cowl had 128, so that one that one's a little bit narrower, but 140 didn't seem too big of a stretch to me, so I chose that. So that's a little bit about the motifs on the cowl and the design process. Okay, so now you've seen all about my design process. I do have another video of myself sewing it up or showing how to pair it for grafting, so that you can see how to do it in case you're a little bit confused, because it's half twisted, but it's not part of this video, so that's another video. And if you're watching this right after it's posted, that one may not be up yet, so never fear, it will be at some point. Okay, so you can totally DIY one of these cowls, like design your own. You just need some charts. So I almost always use this one. I used it again, very useful. This cowl is approximately 28 inches long and about, so long like all the way around 28 inches. And then it's 18 inches this way, or 9 stitches if you fold it in half, or 9 inches, excuse me, 9 to 10. It's a little wider. So yeah, it's, as I said, which you just saw, it's 140 stitches around at a gauge of approximately 31 to 32 stitches per inch, or 4 inches, sorry, 8 stitches per inch about. Okay, so remember that because the cowl is sewn up and it's a tube, you don't have to catch your floats. So there are some 7-stitch floats in here. I didn't catch them. Normally, if I were making a sweater, especially in a sleeve, I would catch a 7-stitch float, like in the middle, between the 3rd and 4th, somewhere. But there's no loose floats. No floats just floating around back there for you to catch, so, because it's sewn all the way up. So you don't have to catch them, which is great. But you do have to weave in your ends, or you at least have to knot your ends together, like tie them together so that the like edge doesn't get all loose, because nobody wants that. I do weave in ends. I don't weave in them ends very carefully when I'm doing a cowl like this, but I make sure that the gaps are closed up because I'm changing colors all the time. So there's little gaps. You want to pull them tight and weave it in like 3 to 4 times, you know, on each side. So, or knot them together, whatever your preference is, but you do need to take care of them. Again, if you want to see a video about how the cowl is twisted and grafted, that's a different video, but I did do it. So I think that's all. And I definitely recommend making your own hat and cowl set. If you don't want to design your own cowl or hat, I mean, there's tons of hats. Use Katie's cap if you want to make a hat like that. But if you, there's a couple of cowls that I'll show you on Ravelry. Let's see, got Cowl by MJ Mucklestone from Fair Isle Weekend. If you go to episode 4 of Tiny Desk Knitting, you will see my version of this. There's also this one by Gudrun Johnston. It's called Vari, a little bit different and in the motifs, but also using Jamison. Both of these use Jamison and Smith 2-ply jumper weight, although you can make them with Shetland Spindrift or any other fingering weight yarn you choose. So I hope that was useful. Thanks for tuning in. This has been Tiny Desk Knitting with Emma.